The Simpsons Extreme Makeover Homer Edition is the latest Simpsons special. This was released on the 17th of June 2026. It's directed by Matthew Nastuk and Timothy Bailey, written by Michael Price and Nick Dahan, and it's actually a two-part special. And as far as I can tell, it is separate from the main season, from season 37. At least it's listed separately on Disney Plus, and it sounded interesting. And honestly, I found it to be at least 2/3 boring, 1/3 okay. I started to really like the third. And then it just, I don't know, it never really delivered, but it was not too bad. So as always, when I discuss The Simpsons, I will go through the events chronologically. Initially, when I sat down to do this, to make my notes, I thought I would have a lot to say and that this would be double the length of a typical Simpsons episode review. But honestly, because I wasn't really enjoying it, I don't have a tremendous amount to say, but I will go through things chronologically and share some thoughts. And of course, the title and concept, I guess, is a parody on Extreme Makeover Home Edition. And this one starts off with a couch gag, actually, which was fun but a little disturbing at the same time. And Marge is getting ready to go out with Homer for a date night with the other couples. They're waiting for the babysitter. Homer suggests Marge goes ahead, which didn't seem like the best idea, but she does. She goes on without Homer. She's having a great time. Everything's actually going really, really well. Homer back at home can't find a babysitter, so he ends up using the door camera. And he sits the children outside in front of the camera, which in itself is a terrible idea. And he goes to the restaurant finally to be on this date night. And Marge finds out what he's done. And I have to say, the way the words sliced through the atmosphere, it was very effective when she yelled, "Sometimes I hate being married to you." It was a very intense moment. The delivery was great. I have to give the episode credit. It was very, very powerful. And Marge then spends the rest of the special imagining different versions of Homer. What it would be like if he had a different personality. And the first one, he's a pilot, he's reckless, he meets Marge and establishes that he's afraid of fear, and then his fear is put to the test. And I don't care for this version of Homer, don't care for this version of Marge. It was kind of boring, but I do like addressing the fear of fear. I thought that was interesting, but I guess the execution of this part of the narrative, I just didn't care for. And then back in present time, we learn that Homer has also spent $3,000 on a vintage game, and Marge then imagines him as a very safe, efficient individual, not a risk taker like that. And I do like some of the animation in this part. Homer's with Helen Lovejoy, which was interesting, and I do really like the appearance of Marge's character. She's wearing a black sweater, and her hairstyle is different, and I did like the visuals for a lot of this one. But then when Homer and Marge go off, I didn't like the animation there. I didn't really like the music. It's not to my taste. So the bits that I did enjoy in this part were really short-lived. But it did increase, it did improve. At least there were elements that I did like. Whereas with the first part, there wasn't really any of that. And then back in real time, Marge goes to Moe's, which I thought was a good idea to change the scenery a little bit, to move the story in real time forward a little bit. And we then get the third and final story. And this is the one that had potential for me to love it, but I'd say I ultimately only liked it. Homer looks very, very slender, and he's taking on a clown role that's affiliated with the Krusty brand, and he has a condition, and I don't think that was a good decision. I can kind of understand why they did it, because it made more sense as the narrative progresses why they would make that decision. But I honestly think that the narrative would have played out in the same way anyway, so I didn't love it. But he gets beaten up. The footage is shown on the Krusty show. Homer loses it. He turns to violence. I wasn't really sure where they were going with this, but then Homer is taken to an insane asylum. And there we meet Marge. And I have to say, as soon as we saw the character, I did love her. I just absolutely loved this version of Marge. I thought she looked great, the way she spoke was brilliant, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that. And then they go crazy and plan to go even crazier, and as Marge says, Batman is contractually not allowed to exist in this universe, which I have to say I quite liked. I really liked that. So I did have fun with that, but it didn't quite deliver. It was good. It was certainly my favourite of the three. Beautifully animated. Homer was certainly very interesting. I didn't completely love what they did with the character. I don't completely love all of that. But there were enough aspects in this third part where I can say I did enjoy it. It could have been better, but I enjoyed it. The first and second parts, not so much. And then at the very end, Marge goes home and actually finds Homer in the treehouse, asleep with the children, and she tells him that she has, and I quote, "the bravest, smartest, happiest Homer for me." Which I thought was a nice way to end things. So I guess the quality did improve as it went on. Started off, well, the real-time stuff with the restaurant, the double dating or triple dating that was okay. I didn't mind that. It was a decent start. And then the first segment, not good at all. The second, some good animation, but didn't care for the story very much. And the third, decent animation, decent story, some good dialogue, great characters, not perfect, but definitely better than the previous two. So I didn't come away from this feeling like it was an amazing experience. But at the same time, I didn't hate all of it. But I probably wouldn't watch it again. I would watch the third segment. I would be quite happy to watch that one again. I had quite a lot of fun with that one. But the first two, not so much. I didn't really care for it. Of course, if you're a Simpsons fan, I do recommend it. Come to your own conclusions. You might enjoy bits of it more than I did. But in general, I can say that Extreme Makeover Homer Edition, while a nice idea, was 2/3 kind of boring. But I guess I enjoyed the third enough that it kind of made up for it, and it ultimately turned out to be an okay experience.